Thanks very much, Naomi, for having us here today. We feel very honoured, really, to have been asked here. We don't think we do anything in particularly special, but we're happy to share what we do with you all. So, about our beef enterprise, we're a medium-scale livestock and cropping operation. We're located at Halls Creek, so it's about 40 k's northwest of Tamworth, just east of Manila. It's a family farm. We've got our kids, Nick and Molly, and we've got about nearly 2,400 hectares, some of which is also leased. We run under a family partnership. And our operation runs on predominantly red-brown earths with some arable land, some undulating country and some steeper country that's further out the back on the boundary. So I'll tell you about Gerard and then he can tell you about me.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a state of the script.
I've got a script. Oh, yeah.
So Gerard's a fourth generation farmer out there at Halls Creek. His great-grandfather came out from Ireland in 1885 to work on the Port Stephens cutting, and then it was a ballot system.
Yeah,
a land ballot, and he landed with a block out at where we live now. It's not the same block, but it's in that same valley, and the road we live on is Settlers Road for that reason. They were all settlers blocks. So Gerard's always worked on the land, either for his parents on their farm or for himself, and he's always complemented that farm income with contract farming, spraying or harvesting. Over to you, Gerard.
Oh, yeah, very, very good. Hold on, there we go.
I set you up, sorry, don't give you a...
Oh, there you go. That's
It's
fine.
on now. We're on now. How do we turn it up a bit?
Just try it.
Anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the go. Anyway, Lucy's from Marywah. Her family have a transport and concrete plant down there. Lucy worked on farms around there when she was growing up. She went to Orange Ag College and started doing a horse course and ended up doing an ag business course. And from there, she went for a job as an accountant, training accountant in Scone, which she ended up on a property in Northern Territory, Gillaruing, and then came back and worked at Croona Feedlot and various places around. And then we met, and we were married in 2009.
Beautiful. And we both was pretty good. I was a bit worried where it was going to go. But we've both done some tertiary studies at Orange Ag College, and yeah, so Gerard's got an associate diploma in farm management, and I've got a degree in ag commerce. Gerard's really good with numbers. I'm much better with words. I can't remember numbers, but Gerard can remember numbers so well. So we seem to balance each other out in that respect. Our two Billy Lids, so Nick is 14. Sorry, Nick. He wasn't going to be here today. But he goes to Farah and he comes home most weekends because he misses his motorbike. Not his family so much, but his motorbike. He is currently saving up for a Falcon or a Commodore Ute so he can just hit the ground running when he can get that licence. He loves driving the tractors and operating machinery. However, he does need motivating to do his homework or to unpack the dishwasher. Pretty standard, yeah. And Molly Moo, she's 12 and she's at a beautiful boarding school in Sydney. She's academically minded, and while she's enjoying views of the harbour and spending weekends at her friend's parents' beach house on the south coast, her parents are at home working their... I was going to delete that before we printed it. Her parents are at home working their asses off and wondering how the hell we're going to afford the next round of school fees. But we're going to make it work.
Yeah, and that's how we're going round.
That's right. So, can you read that, Jez?
Yep. Yeah.
So I'll let Gerard tell you all about how we've accumulated
I left school,
land.
I came home onto the family farm, and we purchased a property with my brother and my mother. That's where we actually live now. It was just down the road from where I grew up. So we went through, and I worked at. My brother, he left and went off managing a place in Victoria, so we slogged away at it. We were lucky enough to have a bit of vendor finance through those years. Wool price was pretty good, and we were locked in at 10% interest on vendor finance, so we were lucky enough to get that one through and out of the road. It was a good building stone. And then I purchased my property off my uncle when he retired in '98, and I leased a fair bit of country in the middle of all that to try and get some numbers around me and to get enough scale where I could get going on my own. I'm one of 6 kids, so I knew that no matter how big the number is, if you divide it by 6, it's not big enough. So I sort of pushed along to try and get a bit of my own ground underneath me. So we went along in 2007. I brought my brother and my mother out, and that was pretty much just before we got married, and then we settled along there with a bit of lease country that we also had around us, and then settled down. We were running a fair few sheep in those days, as well as a crossbred herd of cattle or anything that we could sort of get. And then we were then able to purchase a block across the road from us in 2016, which then did give us a little bit more scale and a little bit of, we were starting to get something that we could borrow against to go again. My father died in 2020, and part of of his estate, we were inherited 1,000 acres of his farm. He had about 3,500, and so that was another big step for us. It came just after the drought. We were able to chuck that in the equity pool again to keep, to get working capital to keep moving ahead. And then as part of that, we bought another block of land which joined that block, and we actually bought the full block and split it with a neighbour, and that gave us the land that we have now. And then as part of that succession from my father, we were able to then buy another block of land in 2022. So that's what we presently have at current. And it's a good place to live. It's sometimes lighter country, and when Sean gave his talk earlier about that little light green patch that was recovering from drought, that's us. And it was a very tough year for us last year. Even though it was a wet year, we recorded 600 mil of rain. We did have a very good winter, very dry summer in 23-24, and then another dry one in 24-25.
So a big turning point for us was the drought of 18 and 19. It was obviously tough for everyone at the time, and it's very much a pivotal point in our beef enterprise. So Gerard always says that 2019 was actually easier than 2018, and I'll let him tell you why.
I should tell the Victorians this, but once you get to your second year of drought, you know what you're doing. You've generally got your systems in place. You've got your plan as to how you're going to get out. When we came into the beginning of 18, we had a mixed herd that were still in pretty good condition. We went through and we did a major cull, and we sold anything that was over 5-year-old, anything that was a late calver, anything which was just out of what we didn't want to be breeding, anything that wasn't black, and we decided this was the time that we were going to change to an Angus herd on the back of being able to afford to buy them. And we had our feed supplies in place, had our nutritionist on track. We did think that it wasn't going to last quite as long as it did. We had a lamb feedlot going, so you had cash flow. You could actually buy stock, spend the money, fatten them, and make money along the way, which would then fund keeping your breeding stock. And we kept our breeding ewes all the way through. We then started purchasing quality Angus heifers so as we would come out the other end with, with a quality line of cattle.
Because we thought the drought would end, in that same year, 2018, but the drought didn't end when we thought it would. So we kept on feeding and feeding and more feeding.
Yeah, we were sort of getting pretty good at it by that stage of the game. You knew what you had to do. And we just, you just wake up in the morning and that was what you do. We bought a feed mixer in that time, and we worked out the best way to be able to do it to keep them alive. We were able to actually keep tipping a few into Woolworths along the way, which was funding the operation, and with that main aim of being on track when we came out.
And so towards the end of 2019, we figured we had to do something to try and climb out of the hole that we'd gotten ourselves into financially. So we decided it was time to take a fairly big gamble, really, but it was a calculated risk. And we ended up starting to buy calves from various sale yards. And then we got the offer of about 1,100 calves from one property.
Supply, yeah. We'd been weaning out, we'd been early weaning, and so we were getting pretty good at feeding these little calves, and we'd sort of get them up and running and then get them onto a self-feeder. And so then this opportunity came up. We had a stock co loan, which we thought we would use, and this mob came up, and we thought this is the way to get started here. This will really crank things along a bit. If it hadn't rained and we had went into a dry 2020, it was going to be tough, but we thought that the records are all broken, and quite often records don't get smashed to pieces. We'd get our turn.
So we had a young girl working for us. She was helping us process calves and induct them, and we sent her into town to get some vaccine or something, and she came back and said, well, they all think you're mad. And it was true. It did feel a little bit mad. It felt like we were going against the grain of what everyone else was doing. Everyone was destocking, and here we were buying hundreds of calves. But the thing is, we made the right decision. It was a huge increase in workload and also financial risk. But Gerard had this really strong belief that the drought was going to end at some point, somewhere, very soon. And if it rained somewhere else, then those people would need to restock and we would have the goods to sell them. So that was what we did.
Yeah, that was the method in what we did. So in 19, when it was still pretty dry, we put in expressions of interest to lease a place at Gunnedah, and I thought if it rains this country, it will bounce ahead very quickly. We were lucky enough to secure that lease. It was on the river at Gunnedah, beautiful bit of country, and we took over. I think it was the 22nd of January, and it started raining that day. Flick them over.
Yep, sorry. So that's a picture of the river on
That's
that
an Amway
property.
River on that property on the 11th of January.
That's
about a week
bone
or so
dry.
before we took it over. And then that is on the 23rd of February. The liver seed came away. We had our cows at home. We had been feeding them. We trucked our cows to over there and put them on that's cultivation country there. And they were there for about 3 weeks or a month. And then we sprayed that out and we put 500 acres of oats in. And then the cows went onto the river country. All the calves were still at home on the feed bin. We'd sent some on agistment to Tarrabah and some to Walker. Had about 1,600 calves on. And then we were able to start tipping those out to keep feeding the machine because we still had to get some cash flow from somewhere. And then as we trucked calves back, we trucked calves, weaners over to there to put on the oats. We brought our cows home and then we were away, so to speak.
So we found that the drought was a huge learning curve for us. We learned, among many things, we learned that it's really important to make decisions early about stocking rates and and feeding, and to stick by your decision without regret. And it's really hard to do that sometimes, but because you can beat yourself up in that time. But just making a plan and sticking to it is really important. And you have to know that what you decided on that day was the best you could do on that day. And we learnt more about animal nutrition than we ever thought we would. We also learned not to let our country get as bare as it did, and to put more effort into maintaining ground cover. I actually think our mental health was pretty good throughout the drought. We were very big on communicating and talking and looking after each other. But after the drought, when the rain came and we had a bit of, we just found that we had a lot of soil washing away.
Yeah.
That's actually when I think our mental health took a bit of a hit, because
Yeah, that was the tough part from it. So from that, we sort of don't want to let our country get as dry as that again, as bare as that again. And I think that especially that last bit of, and all the country was the same, that last bit of 2019, when we had the windstorms and the heat, and any bit of dry grass that was left was gone. We had some country that didn't have any water in it, and so we didn't really have it stocked, but it still got bare. But the main thing is we've decided to try and keep our ground cover. This year we went through that very dry summer, and we were looking at the same thing happening to us again. And if it hadn't have rained, if we hadn't have got the big rain after Alfred went through, we could be in a bad spot again now. There's really only 2 rainfall events that have saved us this time and bounced us into the season that we have. So we actually had weaned our calves, and we sent our cows on the road to Burren Junction, and that enabled, we just did not want to eat our country out again. We figured if it wasn't going to rain, we would have cattle in good condition and they could go. They were in a lighter condition as they just reared a fairly big calf, and they went out to Burren Junction with a drover, and they only came home last week. Our country's bounced away, and we'll get them home to calve, and hopefully we're on the go. But you have to make that decision. Our decision was to save the place, to save the cows, and to get the pressure off, and then we've just got to figure out how we find the cash flow for all of that to happen.
But saying that, one advantage of sending the cows out to Burren Junction under the care of a drover was that we didn't need to increase our workload, our physical workload of feeding our cows cottonseed to lift their condition score before we joined them. So it was almost like employing someone. It was like a contract to basically look after those cows, and it was a big weight off our shoulders to not have to worry about them.
Yeah, we knew that they were right. At the end of the day, we didn't know how we were going to quite get out of it, but if it hadn't rained, they would be in better condition, and as it has turned out, it's rained, we bring them home.
So currently we run 500 medium frame black Angus cows.
We don't have a big mature cow weight. We believe in the small cow. We're Burramukka blood. Our cows, we've got a very fertile herd, and our cows, they calve at 2. We push them along all the way. We're not in heavy carrying country, and we do stock it fairly well. So we do have probably smaller cows than a lot of people, but we can certainly punch them along a bit. They're productive. We get good progeny, and we're just trying to aim at profitability of that cow unit if we can.
So in 2023, our beef won an award. We were awarded the most outstanding MSA beef producer in Band 2, and Band 2 means that smaller sized producer. So we were pretty proud of that, and basically our meat was consistently good. Very basically.
We've always graded fairly high, MSA graded fairly high, and we're fairly compliant with it. We don't very rarely get a dark cutter. Nearly anything hits the grid. We do feed some cattle in a feedlot still to get them over the line, or we do feed them on pasture for a grass-fed market. We have sort of shifted a little bit in the last 12 months or 18 months to the feedlot market because they're paying more money than the supermarkets, and we've just found that just to be a little bit more profitable at this stage. Most of our heifers will still go, our cull heifers will go to Woolworths.
So we're going to tell you all about our management practices basically now, and how we manage our heifers. So we try to maintain our breeders in a condition score of 3 and above prior to joining. Heifers for joining need to weigh at least 80% of our average mature cow weight.
Yeah, so we'll join it. We aim to have our heifers at 350 kilos at joining. We bring them. Yeah, so we select our heifers at virtually just after weaning, and we identify them and run them in their own mob. We synchronise our heifers, and this is to shorten our calving window. It also, I think it increases our conception rates, but we'll give them 2 PG shots 11 days apart, and then we'll put the bulls in on day 13. We put 1 bull to 25, we generally join them in a mob of 100, and so we'll put 4 bulls into 100 heifers. The heifers will seek out the bull, and you'll quite often see a bull with 7 or 8 heifers milling around him. We'll pull the 2 bulls out after the first cycle because they will only bash each other up if you leave them in there. And then we'll preg test our heifers as soon as we can to get that first cycle out. We'll identify them, and then we will run them round again and preg test a month later on to get our second cycle. And so we'll identify our first, the heifers in the first two cycles, put a red tag in their ear, and then we'll go around and put a blue tag in the later calver years, or the next cycle's ears the next time. And the ones that aren't in calf after that, they will go either into the feedlot to be fattened for Woolworths, or they'll be sold. This year we joined 171 heifers. We had 11 empties and 23 that didn't get in calf in the first cycle. We had planned on selling some of those to the Victorians, but we will be carving them out.
So we join our cows in September. This gives us a July calf. We leave our bulls in with the cows for 4 months. The cows will, similar to the heifers, they'll get preg tested after 3 months of joining. We'll identify the early calvers with a red ear tag, and then we preg test the empties again after 4 months after joining. It should be the beginning of January at that point. And then we'll give the next mob of pregnant ones a blue ear tag, and then we take away the bulls. So any cow that's testing empty at the second round of preg testing will generally be sold at weaning time. And then, so in the event of a disappointing pregnancy result, you've got a mob that you can quickly identify and... we're meant to say, hang on. We'll generally be sold at weaning time, and then in the event of a disappointing pregnancy percentage, you have another month to preg test the empties and maybe pick up some late calves.
We quite often, and I called in and saw a mate only a month or so ago, and he had a disastrous preg testing result. I drove through his place and I saw the bulls in with his cows, and he told me that they had 270 cows and they had 90 empties. And I said, and what are the bulls doing? So I put them back in, and I just sort of think that's disastrous. The calves were still on the cows, and I just don't think you can afford to run your show like that. So what we do is our main trigger in getting our fertility right is that we early wean. Where are you going there, Lucy?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So just another advantage of identifying all of those different cows at different pregnancy, at different gestation periods is that you can easily identify them, and then you've got some late calvers that you may want to sell if you have to sell something.
Yeah, you can identify your late calvers, and they can be the first ones to go if you need to sell something. So we early wean, and since we've been doing this has picked our conception rates up remarkably. Even in a tough year, we can get, and 23 was a I think we weaned in September in 23. They were 80 kilos plus, which meant then that our cows got into our 3-score condition before the next winter. And so then that helps you with your 24 preg tests, and we only end up with 26 dry cows, empty cows, and 11 empty heifers, but it's attributed to keeping a condition score on your cow before she calves. Once she calves, she's got to get back in calf. If she's at 2-score when she calves, you're going to struggle to get your numbers in. But if she's a 3-score, she's likely to be just under a 3-score really when she's joined, and so then you're away.
So we're running out of time. So managing our weaner calves, it's just those basics. We try and
give them the animal health when we mark them, and then they'll go back with their mothers. We try and wean generally in January. In a bad season, we'll wean before that, and they will come off their mothers. They'll go into a weaning pen. We feed them crushed lupins, barley, and an additive, and they'll have access to a cereal straw.
We only have one of these pens, but it works really well. We put the cows in where the buggy is parked when we're weaning them. We put the cows in there first, and then we'll run the calves in, and they'll run towards their mothers, and there's feed in that trough, so they're naturally drawn that direction. And it's a grain ration of cracked.
Yeah, it's a labour-intensive little thing for a start, where we start them out on 100 grams a day and increase at 100 grams a day
Till day 10.
Till day 10 when they're on a kilo. They can then go onto a self feeder, and until you've got enough pasture to put them on.
So the bull management, in the last couple of years we've been testing our bulls for fertility, and that's really paid off, because we have had a couple of times where there's been a bull that hasn't had, that's been infertile, basically.
Yeah.
So we were able to know that before we tried him and joined him. And I think Gerard's very good at selecting the bulls. He studies the EBVs, and he selects them on ease of calving and low birth weight, and among other values. But since we've been doing that, I can't even recall an incident where we've had trouble calving. The calves, it's a very high calving rate.
Yeah, we select our bulls on maternal calving ease is a big thing as well. Because we're turning our bulls up, we're using so many bulls in our heifers, we buy bulls that have a low birth weight. We're after 400-day growth, eye muscle area, and then a few of the other ones that sort of stand out, and then we select them. But it just means if you've got your heifers in good enough condition, you've looked after them through the winter, and yeah, we don't go around our heifers when they're calving.
In terms of the future, we've got a lot of goals really. There's only 2 of us full-time on the farm, and we'd like to we'd like to continually invest in pasture improvement and our grazing management practices. We also want to simplify our systems, so things like laneways and good fences, they just make life so much easier, particularly when there is a labour issue.
Yeah.
And also administrative systems, so we're just getting our heads into AgriWeb and trying to maintain that. And also, we feel pretty strongly about the importance of succession planning. So we've started talking to our kids, they're 14 and 12, but we're talking to them about our business plan and about the future and what the possibilities could be. And we think that's really important. So thank you for listening. We love what we do. Sometimes it's good to be reminded that we love what we do, because it can be hard. It can be really hard, but I think it's important to just think, well, why am I doing this? It's because I love it. So thank you very much for listening. We hope that came through.